Hello everybody, this is Leslie, and today we are going to start the work on our next design team project for Dash of Dave. As I have said in a couple of my previous videos, I am not working on a journal this time. I'm actually going to be working on a two-dimensional piece, something that can be either hung on a wall, used as a display piece. So what I'm going to do, a lot of this is going to be just filmed as I'm working on it, and then I will probably do a voiceover for it, only because when I'm working like this, I like to keep stuff on in the background. So I'm probably going to be watching Ghost Adventures on Discovery Plus. So, but I have an old this book was from the 1800s. Needless to say, it had fallen apart. So I have the front and the back cover. I actually may make two, but I know I'm definitely going to do one. Okay. And this is actually what I'm going to be using as my base. Now I have some mica stains, I have some distress oxides, I have a couple of paints here. I have burnt sienna, I have titanium white, antique gold, and then I have in the mica spray, I have antiqued bronze, crooked broomstick, and peeled paint. Then I picked up these square wood blocks from Amazon. I'm going to be painting and staining these. That's what the paints and the stains are for. I may do a dry brush over this. I'm not sure yet. If I do, I may just spray it with the mica stain. But like I said, I kind of have an idea in my head, but I got to keep working with what I got here. Now, the sets that I'm going to be working with from Dave's Digitals is Impasto, Lepidoptera, I can't say it, but Lepidoptera, and Espresso. So those are the three kits. So I am going to make it dimensional. Like I said, it is going to be made dimensional by these pieces because these are going to be shelves. But stay tuned. And like I said, I'm probably going to do a voiceover, and I'll try and speed up the process, and I will probably make this into multiple videos. Okay? So I hope everybody has a great day. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Alrighty, so here what I'm basically doing is I'm prepping the book cover for me to start using the mica sprays and paints and stuff on. So I'm just tidying up the edges. And this book was in really good condition considering the fact that it was from the 1800s. The cover had been completely off, so that was why, needless to say, I had to find something to do with it. Now here I took it's a nail file. My mother had a bunch of nail files that I had taken from the actual place that they had lived, and I didn't really need them, so I said, you know what, I'm just going to use these for sanding purposes. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just sanding around the edges of the book, distressing the corners a little bit because I just wanted a little bit more of a distressed look on the corners. And it doesn't matter what type of nail file you use. If you use sandpaper, I would just use a fine grit sandpaper. I wouldn't use anything real coarse. Otherwise, you're really going to do damage to the book. All right, so here I am taking the bronze mica spray, and I am just giving a little bit of mica spray to around the edges of the book. And then this one is the copper mica spray. And for some reason I didn't feel like the copper really showed up as much. I mean, now that I'm looking at the video again, I do see that it did show. It just, when I was actually spraying it, it didn't look like it was really showing much. I find the copper one is really good for overlays. But it also could be just because this book itself is absorbing a lot of the spray itself, so. And then I'm just wiping some of the color onto the edges, which I will end up painting later on. And what I did was I went in and I took, the, what color is this? Aged mahogany. And these paints that I have in there are Distress Paints by Tim Holtz. At least for this one. The yellow was a different color. And basically I just took the paper towel, dipped it into the aged mahogany paint, and just went around the edges. I ended up using the aged mahogany. I found that I really like that color. And you don't really need a whole thick thing of paint. You just need to get the color onto there. And that's basically, I think, all I'm trying to do here. Just bear with me, everybody. I'm not used to doing voiceover, so. Again, that was the bronze. Then this one is the peeled paint. Distress. I don't think that's a mica. I think it's just a regular distress stain. And again, I took the bronze and I added a little bit of the copper. I like the metallics that Tim Holtz has in his mica sprays. I find that they come in very useful for projects, especially when you kind of want to age them. So I'm just taking my heat tool to try to dry this up a little bit. And as you can see, there's a couple of little areas there, and what I decided to do was have them drip. So that's why I lifted the actual piece itself, so that I can get the inks and stuff to drip. And then here I just take a paintbrush, a small paintbrush, a flat paintbrush, and I go in and try to accentuate the actual drips themselves. I made a few of them a little bit broader than what they actually were. I just thought it looked good for the effect. And I'm just taking the paints and trying to bring them over on the black edges of the book. So I move that off to the side. As you can see, I put down more paper towel. I'm trying to save this desktop. I'm gonna have to put something here. I tend to be working in here more often. And now I take out the wooden cubes that I had purchased from Amazon. I will leave a link down below if that's something that I find that these are really going to be useful in crafting. So this is something I will put in my list for my Amazon affiliate link down below if you're interested. And I want to say thank you. I did notice quite a few people did use my link, so thank you very much for using those. I truly appreciate that. So here I'm trying to figure out what type of glue to use. So I took out the Fabri-Tac 3-in-1 glue and I started using that. I figured since the wood pieces really weren't that big, I said, it'd probably work pretty well. In the end, I didn't end up using that. I ended up going to a hot glue gun, only because I found that it was taking a while to dry and I really needed to get as much done in one day. So I have one of these AccuTemp, and it has the high and low temp, and it's one I've had for years. I literally had to get rid of a couple of them because I didn't realize how many glue guns I actually had. But I just found it a lot easier. I did use the high temperature on it. Just be careful of your fingers. You don't want to burn yourself. Trust me, I have done that over the years and it is not fun. So at first I was trying to figure out the size that I wanted to make the shelves, because these are going to be shelves that go onto the actual piece. And I said, as long as, you know, I didn't have them too big, I could always add on to them. So that was why I started off with the size that I did. Take a sip of my coffee. And if you hear whirring in the back, that's my fan, only because it's been really, really hot here and I'm trying to get the air conditioning from one room into this office that is all the way in the corner of the apartment. So and I just made sure that if any glue seeped out, I quickly removed it with my fingers, and it was not hot at that point. Because you really don't want to have that on the wood pieces, because when you go to paint it, it's going to take a different, you'll really have to sand it off. I mean, unless that's the look that you're going for, because as you could see, I did have a little bit. So I'm trying to sand off some of it. Also too, I did find that some of the seams were kind of sticking out a little bit. So, you know, in my all-knowing wisdom, thought that maybe I would be able to sand enough of it off to make it completely flat. But with a nail file, it wasn't going to do that, or it was going to take forever, and I didn't have regular sandpaper, so I just did the best that I could do. And sorry for the shaking, because I have the arm for filming attached to the actual desk, so needless to say, when you do any type of strenuous movements, it does shake the camera a little bit. And I do use my iPhone 13 Pro for the filming. Eventually I'm hoping to use possibly my Canon SLR. So here I am mixing up the paints. And it's like a yellow ochre It is a lighter brown barn type of color, and it is the aged mahogany, and then I have a titanium white for mixing in if I need something a little bit lighter. I do end up really painting over these anyway in the end, but I still wanted to show you the process that I took. So I just pretty much left all of this stuff in, and you'll just see this is just the way my mind works. As you start putting a piece together, at least for me, I then can kind of conceptualize what I'm actually looking to accomplish in the end. So I may have an idea for something to start off with, but eventually then down the road I do end up changing things. So now here I took the Distress mica stains again, and I said, you know what, for an aged look, for a darker wood tone, I said, you know what, I'm going to add on the bronze. And it did. It definitely brought the color out. So it made it look like it was a dark, old wood. And not that there wasn't anything wrong with this color. I really did like the color. And I probably really could have left it there, but, you know, of course, you know, you just think of something else and you decide, oh, well, you know what, I'm just gonna paint over that. But you'll see that later on. So now here I'm taking out all of Dave's beautiful digitals, and I printed out a bunch, and like I said, the kits that I used were Impasto, Lepidoptera, I can never say that, and espresso. I don't think in the end I used any espresso, but as we go through this, I can kind of give you more of an idea. I'm just going to turn my computer on so I can actually get to the digital kits, and I can tell you exactly which one is which. But like I've told you in the past, Dave's digitals pretty much work completely in unison with one another. And basically I'm just shaving off the edges, and then what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what pieces from the pictures that he has, because I'm going to start collaging. And of course I can't pull up what I'm looking to get here. So these kits are really, like I said, these, especially these designs that he has in the Impasto, I think they're beautiful for, especially for wallpapers. You know, if you're doing journals and stuff like that, and you want to just have a really, really nice page as just a regular journaling page, like this one right there, I think that is absolutely perfect for journaling pages. But right now what I'm trying to do is I'm just taking out some of those corner pieces because I want to add them to the corners. I I started off ripping, and then in the end I ended up just using a scissor and cutting around them, only because I wanted them to be a little bit smaller. And with the problems I'm having with my hands, needless to say, it was starting to bother me using my hands. So yeah, of course it's saying I have no internet access, so I kind of can't pull up the digitals right now. So, but like I said, those are the three I know I had gone and printed from, but most of them are all from Impasto. Most of them. I may use like maybe one or two from the other. And now all the other pieces of these sheets that I did not use, basically what I will do is I will use them, I will put them in my collage fodder envelope that I keep, and then I will use them, of course, for collage down the road, or if I want to stamp things onto them, I will take stamps and stamp onto them and use them for clusters. Also too, I will use them and sew them along with fabric and stuff to make snippet rolls. Now the colors in this were just beautiful. I don't end up showing a lot of, unfortunately, Dave's papers are in the background of this piece that I end up creating. So you really don't get too much from it. You just get a nice collage effect in the back. But I would definitely see that one piece, that filigree type piece, as a wallpaper on an item. Like here I'm doing a two-dimensional piece. So if you wanted a nice wallpaper, I really think that would be really nice as a wallpaper on a background. And as you could see, I gave up with the hands and went to a scissor. And I apologize for the lighting. The lighting in this office is not great. I have a lamp on my desk that I can use to plug in my my phone, my iPad, stuff like that. And then I have a floor lamp that was my parents' that I did bring in here, which is off to the left-hand side. So I have some other light. We only have a light in here that's on the ceiling, and when that's on, it's really bright, and with it being warm, it kind of makes it really warm in here. We try not to have a lot of light. There is an actual double window in this office, but it's on the other side. It's actually to my back. So even if the curtain is open, you really don't get a whole lot of light. So here I saw this beautiful butterfly, and this beautiful, the way he designed this was just beautiful. He has the splotches of the blue up towards the top, which to me interpret into sky, and then you have the butterfly, and then you have the actual flower, which I think is a rose. I really wanted to use that piece. I did not end up using that piece. I end up putting that off to the side to hoard, even though I don't need to. I really like that piece, and I really felt that it needs to kind of be its own piece, if you understand what I'm saying. I need to like make that a focal point somewhere on a different type of project. So So these kits that I'm using, because he has a lot of like side effects and stuff, like he has the images and stuff off to the side, so you would actually be able to use them as journaling pages, ended up being really good for me due to the fact that I needed pieces to place in the corners. So here I have the pieces that I cut out, and now I'm going to sit and try and figure out a design to how I want to lay them out. Now, this is something I regret doing, but I ended up taking Mod Podge and putting it over the top of the sprays. Well, Leslie kind of forgot that the distress sprays, paints and stuff, like, well, not the paints, but the sprays and stuff, move with water. Yeah, so I didn't particularly care for the way that it ended up looking. I should have just used my 3-in-1 glue and left it at that, but I now know going forward, which you'll see me add that on shortly. Like I said, right now I'm just trying to come up with some kind of idea on how I want to lay out the pieces onto the actual background of the book cover. And I think I like collage. My mother used to love doing puzzles. I was never a puzzle person. I don't know what it is. I just never enjoyed doing puzzles. But to me, this is kind of like putting a puzzle together, but I can do it in my own way. I don't have to get frustrated, I guess you could say, with a piece not fitting, and then trying to make the puzzle piece fit because you think that it belongs there, even though really it's not supposed to belong there. So I'm taking my walnut stain, and that is the ink one, not the oxide, which is the one I tend to use all the time. And I'm just, of course, you know, covering up the white spots and stuff. So I'm just going around the edges. So here I come out with the gesso. Oh, actually it was gesso. I kept thinking it was Mod Podge. And I think you'll be able to tell. I think you'll start to see the colors run together. And I was like, oh, this is not what I want. And the more I moved it, the more I, needless to say, would see it. It's not that it's bad, it's just not what I was looking for. And it really shouldn't make much of a difference to me because, like I said, you really don't see much of the edges of the actual background of the book. I leave the back alone only because the back is just that. It's the back of the piece, which I will be adding a picture frame back onto it so that the piece will be able to stand upright instead of being hung on a wall, because this piece I actually am making for my mother-in-law. I had I was supposed to make a piece similar to this, but with the wood boxes that Tim Holtz has, and I had bought those and I just never got around to it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do Christmas in July, so this piece is basically Christmas themed, even though, as you could see, these pages are very much spring and summer, but that's what I was looking for. If I was going to do Christmas in July, I wanted the aspects of the background to be July, and then the focal pieces on the front were supposed to be Christmas related. So as you can see, the gesso hasn't dried or anything, but you could see how different it does look. again, I'm just laying the pieces down. And here I wanted to see if the gesso was going to hold the pieces or if I was going to need to have to glue them as well. Because then that would have been a complete mess, because then I would have to do multiple items, like multiple things that I really didn't need to do. I could have just glued it from the beginning. Which I know in the end, I think I did have to glue. Yeah. Not all of it, but the pieces, of course, that overlapped, that weren't sticking to the gesso. And the gesso that I did use is a clear gesso. You can use any type of gesso. You don't have to use... I had that gesso for quite a while, and I had bought it on sale from Michael's a couple of years ago. So I'm trying to do the edges first, and that was why I was so happy with Dave's papers that I was able to get a lot of edge pieces, because it made it so much easier. I didn't have to try and cut out and make, you know, rounded corners and stuff like that. So does anybody else find it very therapeutic and very calming and soothing to do collage? I know I do. I could sit in collage for hours and I actually lose track of time. And funny thing here is, this day that I was actually working on this, I totally did not, even though I was watching Ghost Adventures off in the background, and I know those episodes were about like 40 some odd minutes or so. I know how many episodes I had watched, but the day just literally fell away. I didn't even realize what time it was. I heard my husband John come in, and I was like, oh my God, it's that time already? I totally, because usually I'll try and get stuff cleaned up, you know, because we share this room, not this desk, but we each have our own desk, but I usually try and clear up most of the stuff so that, you know, once he's home and I don't have to have him, you know, looking at my mess. But yeah, that day I got a lot accomplished that day. I really did. Because this video that I shot was all in one day. And as you can see, I'm using the glue, so I really did not need to gesso this piece. And see how all the colors are different colors? You have the different blues, you have oranges and yellows. Look how beautiful they all look together. And then you'll have some grungy pieces. I'm just amazed, like I said, the color palettes that he designs on his papers, they just work so well together. So if anybody's on the fence about getting Dave's digitals, I'm telling you, don't be, because, you know, they're very affordable. You have them for however many times you want to use them. I just find digitals are a good extra to have when you are working with anything, whatever type of art that you work on. Whether you do journaling, whether you create journals, whether you do pieces like what I'm doing here, which is a two-dimensional art piece, you know, mixed media, stuff like that. I mean, I really do find that they are very, very useful. So when you're actually looking at digitals to purchase, now this is just my opinion, what I suggest would be is to get some basic pages. Like for Dave, he's got a bunch of different kits that are just different colors. They're all the same patterns, but they're all different colors, like verde, sherbet, espresso, latte. There's a whole bunch. There's a yellow one. If I could get my computer up, I would be able to give you the exact names. But he's got a bunch of different colors. And my suggestion is, if you find yourself drawn to a specific color, I would purchase it and just keep it, because first off, once you have it, you have it. You never know what your projects are going to end up turning into, and somewhere down the road you may be like, oh wow, you know what, I really needed a nice dark green. Well, Dave's Verde kit is the kit that you really want to use, because those are really beautiful, deep emerald types of greens. They're beautiful. So all you would have to do is, even if you print one page off and use that one page and use that in whatever you're looking to do. Like for me, for collage, it would be perfect for backing behind pieces that I want to stand out. That's kind of how I look at things. I will use solid colors if I want something to pop. So if there was one, like the one you will see off to the right hand side, right where my hand was, that piece with the butterfly and the rose with the blue, because I love that piece so much, that part of that digital that I cut out, I would find a color. To me, sherbet would be the color I would use, because I think that bright magenta color would make that pop right out. I would actually take magenta, and even if you don't have a lot of it behind it, if you were to back it onto the magenta and cut or tear around it so you have a bit of a border, that would make that piece pop. And if you've never done that, attempt just doing that. I mean, even if you don't glue the pieces together, if you just take a focal point that you really want to accentuate onto whatever it is that you're creating, put it behind a vibrant color and see what it'll do for that piece. It doesn't take away, it only adds to the vibrancy of the piece that you're trying to highlight. Now, most of the pieces I did distress. I don't think I did all of them, but I think I did most of them. And as Tim Holtz always say, you do you. Everybody's got their own way of working. This just happens to be the way that I like to create backgrounds. So as you see, I'm trying to figure out, is there a place that I could put this? But I'm glad I didn't end up using it, because it would have ended up being covered anyway. Now, I did take that butterfly, and I do end up using that. So now I'm just trying to figure out where I want to place the shelves that I created out of those wood blocks. And I did use hot glue, So once those babies stuck down, you were stuck down, and that was not coming up unless you were going to rip that paper off. Now I did use the lower temperature, if I'm not mistaken. I think I used the low temp to actually place these down on the board. I didn't want it to be really, really hot. See, like here, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if it's kind of crooked, and I'm like, oh, I can't move it now. So now I'm just trying to add like little focal areas to the back of the piece. Once I knew where the shelves were, since I kind of had an idea of what the shelves were gonna have on them, I kind of knew what I wanted to place where. So this is where I decide that I'm going to use the purple butterfly, and I'm going to hoard the other piece because I'm not going to use it. And I decide to put this butterfly down on the right hand corner. Now I just wanted to make sure that I had all of the background done the way I kind of liked it, because once I started putting the two-dimensional pieces on, I really wasn't going to be able to get to the background, so I really needed to make sure that the collage part was completed before I actually started to work on doing the actual pieces for the shelves. And I just keep layering up the pieces. There's that beautiful purple butterfly, which I'm sitting here looking at the piece, and it pops. Right where I have it located, you see that butterfly beautifully in the background, which is my mother-in-law is really going to enjoy. My mother-in-law, she loves butterflies. She was telling me a story the other day. I was on the phone with her about butterflies and stuff like that. And when she would help out she would help teachers in a school down in Florida where she lives, before she had retired, and they had done all this stuff with butterflies, and the kids, she was talking about how excited all the kids were when they saw the butterflies, turn into butterflies. And she also loves sunflowers, so I always try to incorporate something like that into a piece if I can, or if I have something that reflects either that. Sometimes I don't have the images that I want to use for her. Again, I'm just putting down the focal pieces, trying to figure out where I think they would fit best. So now this is a rock. When I take Gabrielle out into our back common areas, I'm always looking at the ground. I look for feathers, I look for pine cones, anything I can find from nature that I think, I can use, or, I like to just keep. I found this flat rock and it was just in front of me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect for a shelf. Now the only thing is though, when I actually did glue this down, I just found that unfortunately it ended up being that it was kind of on an angle. So I had to kind of stop and just, I did glue it down, but I end up later on, which you'll see in the next video, trying to kind of even it out so I could put pieces on it. But here's part one. So I hope you all enjoyed part one, seeing how I created this as far as I did so far. And in part two, you will see the two-dimensional part of this piece come together. So thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. And again, thank you to all my subscribers. We are at the 1200 mark, so we are getting very close to 1500, and you know what that means: giveaway time. Take care, everybody, and don't forget, please head over to Dave's shop. I will have all of his links, his YouTube videos, his YouTube channel, his Etsy shop. So please head over to his pages and show him some love, and subscribe and buy some beautiful digitals, because they are beautiful and you will not regret it. Trust me. Take care, everybody.